Hello, this is Suchya teaching you SST and now picking up the 5th chapter of Political Science class 9, and the name of the chapter is Working of Institutions. For the successful running of democracy, it is very essential that all the institutions work properly and in coordination with each other. If the institutions stop functioning, or if there is delay in their working, or there is some problem, then we cannot boast of a good democracy. Before I explain you the various institutions of democracy, their functionings, shortcomings, I am going to tell you about the new terms of the chapter. The first is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, in fact, are the government officials who assist the government in the successful functioning. Second is emergency powers. Emergency powers are generally enjoyed by the president in a parliamentary democracy when he becomes very powerful and he exercises powers much more than those enjoyed by him in normal times. Next is money bills. There are two kinds of bills which are passed in the parliament: money bills and the non-money bills. The money bills are those bills which are concerned about finances, that is about the money part. And the biggest thing about the money bill is that it can be initiated only in the Lok Sabha, whereas the other bills can be initiated even in the Rajya Sabha, but these bills can be initiated only in the Lok Sabha. Next is impeachment. It is a process by which the president and the judges of the country can be thrown out of their office. It's a very difficult process and it is not easy to impeach such high personalities. Next is parliamentary government. Parliamentary government is that form of democracy in which the head of the state is the nominal head and the real powers are in the hands of the Prime Minister, that is the elected head. Next is President's rule. When the country faces some kind of emergency, it could be internal, external, or to do with financial matters. So, there are three kinds of emergencies which might erupt in a country, which are internal emergency, external emergency, and to do with finance. At that time, the president becomes all in all, and in the country we say that there is a president's rule, because then it is the president of the country who takes all the major decisions in all spheres of life. Next is question R. Question R is in fact that period of the session of the parliament wherein the questions are asked by the members of the parliament. Question at the commencement of the session of the parliament, it actually begins or commences with the question R. Next, legislature, executive and judiciary. These are the three big organs of the government: legislature, executive and judiciary. Legislature makes laws for the country, executive executes those laws, and judiciary safeguards these laws. So, all of them complement each other, legislature, executive and judiciary, and all of them are independent of each other. If they are not independent, then we cannot have a good democracy. And in the chapter, we shall see how in India all three organs of the government stand independent to each other, and thus we have a successful democracy. Continuing with the new terms and concept, we come to the next term, coalition government. In fact, today's India seems to be the era or age of coalition governments. A coalition government is that government when one party does not get absolute majority and then two or more parties come together to form the government. That's called as coalition government. And in India these days we see that most of the governments are coalition governments. Next, reservations. It is believed that for centuries together, some communities and castes have been oppressed and suppressed by the other communities. So, in order to bring them into the mainstream, the government has started with the policy of reservations, which means to reserve, to protect certain post seats for these unprivileged people so that they can actually be one of all of us. Next is Lok Adalats. Lok Adalats are in fact those courts, the people's court, wherein speedy justice is provided to the people, because the Indian judicial system, they say, is such that you do not get justice, they say mockingly, in your lifetime. So, to provide speedy justice, we have Lok Adalats. Next is High Court. Every state has one High Court wherein all the decisions taken by the lower or the subordinate courts, if the person feels unhappy or unsatisfied with it, he can file a case in the High Court. Supreme Court. This is an apex judicial body and it is situated in New Delhi, and its decision cannot be challenged by any court of India or by anybody for that matter. It is supreme, it is powerful, and it is in fact the head or the supreme verdict of all the proceedings. Next is the Speaker. The presiding officer of the Lok Sabha is called the Speaker. When he becomes the Speaker, he does not belong to any political party and he is supposed to be impartial in all his dealings. Court of Record. The High Courts and the Supreme Courts act as court of record. That is, whatever proceedings go on in their court and whatever the judgments are, whatever the verdicts are, they are kept as a record for the lower courts so that they can pick up this example and give the decision accordingly. Next is original jurisdiction. Those cases which come directly to the Supreme Court are called as original jurisdiction. Next is appellate jurisdiction. Appellate jurisdiction is when you are appealing against the lower court. When a person had filed a case in the lower court and is unsatisfied and finally moves to the Supreme Court, that is from the lower court the journey, then it is an appellate jurisdiction. So remember, original are the ones which have come directly to the Supreme Court, and appellate are those which have been moved from the lower to the highest court.